Sean, the depth was an issue at Marquette. One of the guys was Desmond Claude. He was sick. What's his status? Can you tell us anything more about his availability?
Desmond is feeling a lot better, so that's the most important thing. We're going to know more probably tomorrow, game day, whether he'll be able to play or not. He's going to rejoin us in terms of what we're doing. He wasn't on the trip to Marquette. He's going to be a part of what we're doing, but I don't know if we'll truly know. It's more of a game time, game day decision based on how he's feeling and how today and tomorrow both go for him leading up to the game. I think once we get past this weekend, I think we're more probable in knowing that he'll be with us in our hopes for the remainder of the season.
I know he's not at that 4-week mark yet that you set on his injury, but Zach did participate in warm-ups at Marquette. Is that anything more than him just testing it out, or what was the deal there?
Yeah, I think it was just him testing it out. The 4-week mark is in place just because, number one, the healing process to his injury would allow him to be, the most protected, and it also would give us the opportunity, not to go from 0 to 100 miles an hour, but to just incrementally ramp up his activity so that we know what he can do, that he's confident in himself, and that when he does in fact return, that he can, he can help us and also be protected. But the one thing that I've always maintained with this injury with Zach, none of us do have a true crystal ball. I'm optimistic that he'll be in a position to return to us. It's, how that goes. The first part, we're about ready to get towards 3 weeks, right? We're almost at that 3-week mark since he was last with us. And I think moving past this weekend into early next week, we should have a better indication of, again, him being able to participate a little bit more, test it out more, how he feels, and then, hopefully he'll be able to rejoin us at some point there.
I'm curious, now that you've had a chance to watch Marquette game and kind of digest it, and I'm sure talk to the team about it a little bit, that's a team you had up there who was undermanned, who had a lead in the final minute against a team who's number 11 in the country, but also I'm sure when watching the film you saw you had a chance to win that game. Just how have you digested those two different emotions of, wow, look what our team did undermanned to get to this point, but then they didn't finish?
No, the feeling after our Marquette game, there was a lot of positives. There really was. We prepared well. I thought we had a solid game plan on both offense and defense. Coaches, players, everybody, I think, really went into that moment at Marquette and trying to be the best that we can be. And, clearly we were in a position to win the game in the last minute, and it didn't happen. But there's positives when it comes to that. Cam Kraft went down in practice, and, when he went down, we thought it was a significant knee injury. That in and of itself affects everybody. When you see it, you feel for him. That particular practice doesn't feel right beyond the injury itself. You worry about him, and then, when you're undermanned, somebody like Cam, he kind of takes that role as the next man up. And then when Dez wasn't able to go on that trip, and, I think Dez has been as important component to our season as almost anybody. And we counted on him game in, game out. And you go back to some of our biggest moments. Providence at home, at UConn, Dez played more minutes in a bigger role. He's entering that period of time where you can say he's no longer a freshman. So then we lost him. Then we're already playing without Zach. We were very undermanned. Very. And I think that us playing the way we did says a lot about the guys that played. And we have to carry some of that with us. I think the other part of it is, we didn't have the same feeling after our Butler game. Both hard-fought, on the road, hostile environments, tough losses. No disrespect to Butler because they did a great job, but we cooperated. We didn't show up with that same mentality. So on the heels of that experience at Butler, maybe lesson learned, maybe we are more prepared to be the best we can be game in, game out. based on those two last experiences, you know. And now, look, we're moving into the final phase, which is, you know, you can't lose your confidence. You've lost a couple tough games, heartbreakers on the road. You have to be able to come back home prepared, just like we did for Marquette, for DePaul, and see if we can get a home victory, which would be, you know, our 20th of the year. When you can win 20 games during the regular season, and with the schedule that we've played, there's a lot of positives with that. And, you know, that's what we're playing for on Saturday, an opportunity to get a Big East win and to win our 20th game of the season, and that is our focus.
You mentioned when talking about the Marquette game and what your guys learned from it, you said carry some of that with us, whatever that was. But what do you think that is that you're talking about that you want this team and that group to carry from the Marquette performance going forward?
You have to compete. You have to compete from the opening tip to the final buzzer. In the Big East Conference, especially where we're at today, we're not going to overwhelm one team with our talent. And that doesn't mean we don't have really good players, but right now we're missing several of those players. And the other team has good players. I mean, there's a point guard who plays for DePaul that I would put up against any college point guard in America. You name a point guard in America, and I would put Gibson up against him. If you look at his scoring, his three-point shooting, his field goal percentage, leading, I think he's number 2 in the Big East in steals, minutes played, consistency, free throw shooting. He is an outstanding college basketball player. Outstanding. I mean, he is really, really good. Point I'm making is you don't get an opportunity to pick and choose how important the next game is. Every game from this point forward is single elimination. There's something at stake when you play the game. And you have to approach the practice. You have to approach every meeting we have with a sense of urgency and a focus. And then when you get to the game, you got to understand that it's going to be a battle. And when we played Providence at home here, I think everybody understood this was going to be a battle. Well, you can't leave that game and say, the good news for us is the next game is going to be a little less of a battle. That mentality is something that we have to have from this point all the way until our season ends. And that's the mentality that we really brought with us to Marquette. And we still gave up 11 second shots in the second half. So we were the furthest from perfect. There were a couple times when we forgot the defensive rebound, and Marquette's just great hustle and tenacity in many ways overwhelmed us in the second half. You know, they continued to beat us to the ball. So even though I said that, the real reason for us not being able to beat Marquette is they had 11 second shots in the second half. Their 2 guard had 6 steals and 3 second shots. And, you know, so even with us being at our best, you know, Marquette probably did that better than our team did.
How do you use the first game against DePaul to help your team in this game? Like, what sorts of things are you pulling from that game to maybe smooth them out or make your team better prepared this time around?
Yeah, I think DePaul, you know, obviously they're in every game, you know, and I know they're entering our game on a losing streak, but they have 2 starters on their team, Johnson and Gibson, that, man, it's hard for me to have more respect for 2 players than what those 2 guys do for their team every game. I mean, they mixed their defenses against us the first time. It's something we were getting ready for this time around. But, you know, the focus isn't necessarily to pay them back, to beat a team that's beaten us, as much as kind of what I alluded to, and that is, regardless of our opponent, that we maintain the same type of effort, that we maintain the same type of preparation, that everybody understands here coming down the home stretch towards March Madness, that every day that we're together is meaningful, and we want to try to be at our best, whether it's practice, the preparation, game day shoot-around, and clearly the game itself. You know, the focus is about us. Do what we do it as well as we possibly can. If we're a little bit undermanned, what are the different things we're going to do to maybe give ourselves a different advantage? Well, let's make sure that we're all well aware of those. And same thing with guys that are being called upon, like Cesar Edwards and Kiki Tandy, that they can maybe be more comfortable in this game or more ready than they would have been in the last game. And we have to help them establish that. So I think that's it. You know, none of us in college basketball have that opportunity to pick and choose who we're revved up against and who doesn't mean as much. Every one of these games is crucial to our finish. And again, back to my point, you know, when you go out there for the jump ball and you consider the depth and the talent, you know, we have to be really, really good right now on each of our games moving forward to be able to leave victorious, to win.
Tell me, was that loss at DePaul, was that loss at DePaul your team's worst performance of the year?
No, our worst performance of the year was at Butler in the first half. Again, in all credit to Butler, they did a great job against us. But, yeah, I don't really have an answer for you on that one right there. But DePaul, we had a terrible shooting night. I think Colby and Sule combined from the field 4 for 26, 0 for 8 from 3. And yet we were still right there to have the chance to win the game. We did do some good things, but clearly we have to be better here tomorrow. And I think the final part is being on the road these last 2 games, you really feel that home crowd against you. It's not an easy thing to overcome. And, you know, I'm excited to be back in the Cintas Center, a Saturday game, and looking forward to seeing our student section and our home crowd. There's not a team that's ever played at Xavier that needs their home crowd more than 2023, the last 3 games at home, than this team right here. That never has a team needed this crowd more. So looking forward to being at home and trying to take advantage of that.